first of all, we've got the astrology part of the program, and it's very interesting because, you know, Farrah Fawcett died this morning, actually, and I knew that she died when I got out of bed and I saw the news, and I got her chart up. I thought, I've got to see, because I love studying when people die, because I want to see what's there in the chart and what's in the astrology. And it's very interesting because with Farrah Fawcett, in her 8th house, now the 8th house is the house of death, as well as being the house of other people's money, inheritances, windfalls. It's the house of metaphysics, it's the house of sex, but it's also the house of death. And in Farrah Fawcett's chart today, in her transits, which is where she is today, she has her North Node. And her North Node indicates that that's where she's going to. But the 8th house is death, is transformation, moving from one world to the next. And that's what she, you know, that's what it's all about. She's chosen today to leave.
So that was on a chart that you brought up specifically for today?
Yes, specifically for today. But the interesting thing was, I knew around about lunchtime that Michael Jackson had been taken to hospital. I keep up with everything, and then he died, and I, you know, it was very interesting because I did a chart for him as well, and he, in his chart today, this is a chart I've done for particularly today. First of all, he has his sun in the 10th house, which makes him the star. You know, he overshadows Farrah Fawcett, you know, in great detail. But also in his 8th house, he has Mars. And Mars is a direct energy. And, you know, it's the Mars that's taken him home. Sudden, you know, basically very quickly. But the interesting thing is that in the 12th house, he has his Saturn. And, of course, Saturn in the 12th house is all about letting go of what we no longer need, of moving on. When Saturn is in the 12th house, and I have Saturn in my house for the next year and a bit, it indicates, you know, I've had to leave a lot of stuff behind in my energy to move forward. Well, he's obviously decided he wants to leave the world behind and leave all that, you know. And it's interesting because he was, according to the press, he was training with a trainer, with a weightlifter, and it makes you wonder, was he taking anything, you know, like steroids or anything like that? He'd chosen to work twice a day with on this new return show of his, and he was doing 2 rehearsals a day in Burbank, and just basically flogging himself to death. You know, there was some, before the tour, there were some issues about insurance and about would he, you know, be able to do it. And he went and had all these tests taken and everything was fine. But the thing is that, you know, he had a heart attack today, and when he was doing a workout, and that was it, you know.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned it with having to let things go, because I'm sure in his energy there must be a lot of frustration and anger with all that he's been through.
Of course there is. And you know, I mean, he was almost broke as well. I mean, even in his chart, you know, his transits, you know, there's issues with, you know, with balancing himself financially and you know, having financial problems. And I mean, you know, there's no doubt about it. He's, you know, it contributed to his, you know, to his downfall in a sense, and his stress way. And yeah, I mean, the thing is that, you know, one has to wonder now that he's passed over, will his children get a better way of life? Now, that doesn't mean to say they didn't have a better way, but he hid them away. And so who will look after the children now? Apparently the woman he married, Debbie, who had his children, she doesn't have any say at all.
Really?
With any of the children. She waived rights to the children for a sum of money. So basically, it's left to his parents or the rest of the family to, you know, to look after those children because there's nobody else. So it's really interesting, and you know, it's sad that Farrah Fawcett's gone because she was a lovely woman. She was, and
she's also very courageous.
She
you know, came out of the shadows to publicise her illness.
Yes, exactly.
I'm sure that'll help a lot of people.
Yeah, and of course, you know, as I wrote on my Twitter, I tweeted my Twitter and said, you know, so sad about Michael Jackson because he, you know, he was a great guy, and I mean, I just think that, you know, if you're an entertainer, it must be very, very hard. You know, I mean, you know, the Goslings at the moment are the #1 news thing, you know, paparazzi at the door and at the gate and shooting from distances. And, you know, the thing is that when you become a public figure, you really give up your life. You know, you give up your privacy, you give up your life, you give up, you know, every part of you.